it might be useful, I guess, just to give context on how I got to know Chris. But I had founded a company about a decade ago called Treasure Data that ended up getting bought by Masa Son's SoftBank through his company, or through SoftBank's ownership of a big microprocessor company called ARM. And ARM microprocessor had it's a giant company. It's anything that you use that's digital, that isn't actually computers probably use them too, that has a microprocessor, very likely has an ARM microprocessor in it. Every iPhone, every Android phone, every TV remote controller, probably every microwave has a microprocessor from ARM. And we were building basically the data fabric to connect all those things up and be able to kind of read what's happening with the devices to give it kind of a context aware cloud. And through that acquisition, I got to know a guy named Dominic Bergine, who was the head of sustainability at ARM. ARM had started a project with the United Nations called 2030 Vision. Or it was World Economic Forum, and eventually it involved both. And we were going to basically drive the data platform part of that. He introduced me to Chris. And as I got to know Chris was putting together, it was with UNICEF Innovation, an amazing project to basically bring broadband to every school in the world. UNICEF has been around for a long, long time as part of the United Nations and has helped facilitate the funding to build, I don't know how many schools, but Chris can speak to that. And with the advances in technology today, it's a lot easier today to drop broadband into those schools, because you can have a little solar, a little wireless link, and you're lit up. And Chris has evolved an amazing concept that involves NFTs. If you can imagine bringing on the next generation of people in kind of 5 billion, there's 7 billion people in the world, 2 billion in developed markets, 5 billion in undeveloped. And this whole next generation is going to be empowered digitally to transact value with NFTs, or digital value in general. But I met Chris through Dominic in New York, and for a couple of years we've been working on giving birth to this. Chris has been working on giving birth to the project, and I've been supporting and providing some color and ideas and things like that. So that's what it is. But Chris, why don't you talk about what is the Giga Connect project?
Well, thanks, Bill. I think before we met, I just had with our team and UNICEF started this crypto fund. We kind of kicked off the very beginnings of it, and then you and I launched it in San Moritz together at the crypto finance conference, and so that was really fun. But this kind of goes back even further than that. I mean, one of the things that, like before I was at UNICEF, the background on UNICEF, for those who aren't super familiar with it, which I wasn't before I joined it, is that it's the world's largest organization for children. Particularly, it focuses on the world's most vulnerable children. It's kind of looks at the bottom 20% of kids financially, economically, the kids who are left out of everybody else's kind of plans and government plans, and always get left behind on everything. But it's huge. It's a $7 billion a year organization. UNICEF has about 17,000 staff in 190 countries around the world. And it's really an interesting place for somebody who comes from outside of the UN. Like, I came from tech startups doing things in East Africa and the Middle East that were about very kind of normal technology stuff, bringing new types of applications, software, and access to people who weren't making up a traditional market that Silicon Valley would have looked at the time, but still made money. And in UNICEF, when I joined UNICEF after leaving my company in East Africa, there was a huge opportunity to do the stuff that I love, I care about, that our team loves and cares about, which is to build cool tech, build tech that helps people, but to do it really at this global scale, so that you could build something that then goes to 10 countries or 100 countries or 150 countries. And over the last bunch of years, we built the largest mobile phone SMS-based platform for moving data around. And so in Liberia during the Ebola crisis, we were there setting up and rebuilding mobile networks so that you could get SMS, text messages and get data from people all around the country. And that was the only data that we had as UNICEF to figure out how to move supplies around. And after that, as Bill was saying, we started this venture fund, and it was the first time you could ever invest money into open source tech companies as UNICEF, as the UN, and do stuff that a lot of us are familiar with from outside of the UN that kind of seems normal, like find a bunch of good co-founders, help them with their journey, help them get acquired, and kind of help them build something that they, or whatever their exit is, and help them build something that they care about. But to do that from inside of the UN adds this whole network to it, because suddenly you're working with heads of state, with ministers, with all these people who maybe don't know very much about technology but have a lot of power. And so the crypto fund and the venture fund, the crypto fund was fun because it was the first time we could ever bring crypto assets into the UN. It's the only, it was the first public sector crypto denominated fund, denominated in Bitcoin and ETH. And that was a big deal too, because you couldn't move digital finance, you couldn't move money of the future through this whole UN system before we sort of lost a lot of years of our life and pain and sadness and joy altogether, and figuring out how to do asset classification for this new type of digital money. And so that's about when Bill and I met. And one of the big problems that we were having with a lot of our companies that we were investing in was that they couldn't scale all the way. They couldn't scale as big as they should be able to, because they kept hitting this problem of connectivity. Their users, a lot of their potential users, weren't connected. They're all in emerging markets. The companies we invested in were in developing and emerging markets, and they just weren't hitting scale. And when we started looking at why, it became very clear that connectivity was an enormous issue for, obviously, like for digital companies. And so the half of the world's population that didn't have connectivity just wasn't even able to be involved in being users of their products, building new products, being customers or partners. And so Giga, just to kind of get to the very end of it, was an initiative that we set up out of the venture fund, out of the crypto fund, to try to connect every person in the world to the internet, but really to do that through connecting every school in the world through the internet. And there are a bunch of reasons why we connect schools. We can talk about that a little bit later, but it was really trying to figure out how we could make sure that everybody has access to the digital future, that all of us on this particular discussion have access to, that we're very lucky to. If you have a monkey, you've got access to the digital future. For half of the world's population, there may be a cell signal in sight, or in signal of you, but you certainly don't have the opportunity and choice that the connected world does. And so that really kind of got us started, Bill, on trying to figure out how we could connect every school in the world.
Amazing. Thanks, Chris. And I'm just going to back up a little because we have a lot of people here. People probably know some of our speakers, but in case they don't, I'll just give some quick bios. Obviously, we have Bill Tai. He's been funding companies as a venture capitalist since 1991, has had over 20 companies he's backed at early stage grow to become listed companies. He's actually the founding chairman of Treasure Data, founding chairman of IP Fusion, and he was the lead seed investor in Canva, Wish, and a company some people have heard of called Zoom, where he was actually the first committed backer. And he's also the chairman of Acti Global, which is a 501c3 uniting athletes, conservationists, technologists, artists, and innovators, supporting active conservation of our environment. And they're actually partners of the 2030 Vision, Ocean Elders, Mission Blue, and also economic empowerment via entrepreneurship through projects such as Extreme Tech Challenge. So welcome, Bill. Thank you for joining us today. We also have Danny Yang, who is the CEO and co-founder of Infinita. Prior to Infinita, he founded several companies in the AI and blockchain space. He was formerly CEO of Blockseer, which is a blockchain analytics company he co-founded in 2015, sold in 2018. Blockseer specialized in data analysis and anti-money laundering for digital currencies. And then in 2013, he founded MyCoin, which today is Taiwan's largest cryptocurrency exchange. So basically the Coinbase of Taiwan. He founded several other companies, and he's just wicked smart guy. He's a bachelor's in chemistry and physics from Harvard, PhD in computer science from Stanford. And hey, Danny.
Hey, everyone. Hey, monkeys.
Hi. And then also want to introduce Chris Fabian, who is a technology executive who founded and co-leads the Giga project, which is basically a partnership between UNICEF and ITU, which we talked about a little bit about, basically structuring billions of dollars of financing to deliver affordable connectivity to every school in the world. He's advised 2 UN Secretary Generals on new technologies, founded and scaled the UNICEF's Innovation Unit, work with heads of state and CEOs to build equitable open source technology policies that can solve the world's most pressing problems. He's also been in the private sector, which he touched on briefly when he launched Rapid Pro, which is one of the largest SMS mobile data collection frameworks in the world. He was recognized by Wire as one of the 25 people changing the world in 2019, and Time Magazine as one of the world's 100 most influential people. So welcome, Chris.
Hey, That's like
great.
I never like that. That's a lot of stuff. But that was mostly other people who did it, and I just
people
it's a
join
great
Twitter
team.
Spaces.
It's a great team behind it all.
Yeah, some know OnChainMonkey, some don't. Some just like happen to be on Twitter and saw this and popped in. So I think it's always good to give a little background on everyone. And I know you gave some background on Giga Connect. Tell us a little bit more about what have you been doing today on the project. Kind of what's next on your roadmap.
Sure. So, well, I think with that was what we set out to do, was like, how do you connect every school in the world? And it ties into a lot of the stuff that's happening in the NFT space. We'll come around to that in a minute. But just some fun facts for everybody. Like, nobody knows how many schools there are in the world. So that's an interesting fact. There are probably around 6 million plus minus a million. As Bill said, if you look at what's coming for the future of the world, and people who are connected are going to be driving the economies of the future. They're going to be the ones that are looking at the crypto asset space, at the blockchain enabled internet of the future, and looking at it as natives to it. The people who aren't connected are going to be left out. And so when we think about connecting schools, and if you go to the website projectconnect.world, you can see a map of all the schools in the world that we've mapped. We've mapped about 1 million schools already. And you can see which ones are connected. And if a school isn't connected, it often means the community isn't connected, which means people around that school and students in that school don't, well, first of all, I mean, like, if you're in school, what do you want to do most? You want to mess around and probably not be doing school stuff. So you want to be trading monkeys or something else under the desk on your phone. Not saying that I condone that, but I'm not saying that I totally don't. But point is, you don't have access, if you're not connected, to all of the stuff that the internet gives you, all the connections that you can make, all of the ability to kind of define a future for yourself. And so we think it's really important to do this, but we also think it's important to build this future global economy. And one of the things Bill talks a lot about is the number of people who came into the kind of commercial economy when China joined the World Trade Organization. And he says a lot that, bringing people online is going to be somewhat similar to that. You've got 1.5 billion young people who don't have internet access. And imagine what happens to the digital asset space, to the digital asset production space. And you can see this with things like Axis and like the stuff that's happening with kind of pay-to-play games and pay-for-play games and the whole surface that's being developed in that side. But imagine when you get real creators everywhere in the world, not just in the well-connected parts of the world, building their own stuff. That's pretty incredible. And that future looks very different to the one that we see in front of us if we don't connect everybody. So our team is about 25 people. We're working really hard at making sure that everybody's connected to the internet. But it's going to cost a lot of money to do that. And we're looking at a ticket price of connecting every school in the world at about $420 billion. So that's a ton of money. And we have to figure out how to find that. It's not money that's new. It's money that we need to identify and leverage and move around from places that it already exists. And so as we've been going through that process, we've been joined by a bunch of really smart people. So we've got help from Ericsson in this journey to map every school, from the Elon Musk Foundation, and from Dubai Cares. And we've been looking at kind of donors who help us get started, kind of invest in this project from the beginning and get us moving. And one of the other things we've been looking a lot at as you connect schools is how to engage communities in this exciting quest for doing something really important and really good. And that leads into the NFT space for us very clearly. One of the things that we know is that if you connect a school, you should be able to see it online. If you look at projectconnect.world, if you go to that website, you can see the dots that are green are schools that are connected, right? Everywhere in the world, you can suddenly see them. And if you see that if they're red, they're not connected. And we started thinking, what happens if, since we're building this all on a blockchain layer for accounting, you can move the money, you can move the finances through crypto, you can account for it on a blockchain. What happens if you start to look at how you engage communities in new ways around the act of connecting schools? And this gets us to where the whole NFT space fits in, but particularly where the work that we're looking at with MetaGood, which is what Infinita will be, and with some of the other partners maybe on this call, is going. So what if we could bring all of you into the journey that we're going through, that our team of 30-odd nerds is working on, and make you feel also connected to every part of it, so that when schools do become connected, when we hit road bumps, when we have successes, that there's a connection there. And so we're pretty excited, Amanda, that we're looking at what what an NFT for collaboration with Giga would look like, what that might be designed to do. We're tracking the space pretty carefully, and we just thought that the work that OnChainMonkeys had done was, first of all, technically quite interesting, and the idea of the sort of one-off and entirely on-chain kind of feature set was pretty cool technically. So big up Danny, but also that the vibe that you have in general about how you want to promote people who are doing good was quite compelling to us. So that's kind of where we are, and we've mapped a million schools. We've connected about 3,000 in the last few months, and we're hard at work.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Danny, why don't you, for anyone who doesn't know what OnChainMonkey is, and I'm assuming most people that join the Twitter Spaces probably have heard about us, but just in case they haven't, tell us a little bit about what's OnChainMonkey and what is the historical significance behind this collection.
Thank you. And Chris, amazing stuff you're doing at Giga. So OnChainMonkey is an NFT collection that was started from a single transaction, and so I was basically working on this kind of secretly on my own, and because of the nature of this, I wanted to do this, like build a whole profile photo PFP collection in all on chain and all like programming, like written by a program, right? The program created all the monkeys that you see here, and also be the kind of first to do this all in one transaction. So I couldn't create a marketing campaign and say, oh, this is gonna be the first. And I didn't want to do that even if it made sense, because I just wanted to just do this and just launch it and give it away. And so that's what I did when this started, and the whole community building that happened up to now has been pretty amazing. And I mean we're basically doing this together, building this community together, and kind of shaping it to do good, right? And so we really are excited to support Giga in this auction that we're having today, and also to share Giga's vision and in this Spaces event.
And Bill, I know you've been involved with the Giga project for some time, even before this company started. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got involved? Maybe you can tell us the story of the crypto finance conference and how this ties into CFC.
Yeah, actually, so as Chris was describing what he wanted to do with the UNICEF platform and the mission of connectivity and all that, first I want to say, if you think about the audience that is here, that the group of you here on this call, you are leading the next wave of the world economy. Whether or not you know it, you may or may not be buying these NFTs and things because that's what you're thinking you're doing, but that's what you're doing. You're basically the front end of a gigantic wave in how humans transact value digitally. And also, if you think about where you sit relative to the billions of people that are in the underdeveloped economies, for every one of us, there's probably 10,000 or 100,000 people that aren't yet part of this economy, but can be brought on and just sort of generation skip, kind of right from, kind of raw to digital citizens. And so that project, when Chris described it, I was like, wow, this is the key to unlocking a productive future that does not involve digging all kinds of stuff out of the ground and burning it and polluting our world and kind of manual just bad stuff for this planet. And I had in my head this picture, and I think Chris will remember this. I was like, wow, you know what you're doing? You're basically driving the build out of what would have looked like building the railways in America when it was mostly forests, but without harming the environment. So you're basically laying the tracks where everywhere there's a stop, a city forms. And everywhere there's a city, there's a bunch of people there that are transacting, and you're going to grow. You're going to lay the foundation for a modern economy that redefines the world for most of the world. And it was just so profound. I was like, I am going to do whatever I can to help this project. And we kind of jumped on it. And then with the enablement of the, as Chris mentioned, the very, very, very first cryptocurrency fund from a public sector entity that is supranational, not just one country. I mean, everyone got very excited about El Salvador and Bitcoin. Chris basically got a multinational organization with hundreds of countries to allow a cryptocurrency denominated fund to exist and transact within the UN framework, which was actually quite a very big deal, but it kind of got lost a little bit in the downdraft of the crypto economy in 2017, 2018. And we were very honored to be able to launch or relaunch that at the Crypto Finance Conference. So which, I don't know when they're going to do the next one, because it's been an annual event. COVID kind of put a hold on the physical in person. Last year they did it online, but I think maybe they might do it again in person. But I'd recommend, it's a great forum of people that involves everybody from technical innovators to people driving monetary systems, fiat and crypto, and government regulators. So it was a great place to launch part of what Giga was all about, which is laying the framework for people to transact in crypto, and then later bringing that as a mechanism to drive the economy for billions of people over the decades to come.
And I think, Bill, what's cool is that as you're thinking about the railroads and that metaphor, I see that we've got Ben Roberts on the discussion as well. He's one of our partners who's actually, I don't know, I'm not sure what we're allowed to say yet. Anyway, Ben and his team are working. I mean, Ben is the CTO at Liquid Telecom, one of the big mobile network operators that runs through East and Southern Africa, and the team there is exactly doing what you're talking about, really building these railroad lines for the digital future. And so it's really been cool as well to see that as we are, what we're trying to do with Giga is kind of create some space for discussion around why this is important, why it's important to connect everybody, not just the wealthy. The second thing is to try to find the financing to make it possible to connect some of the harder to reach areas. And then the third is to kind of get the regulatory stuff up to speed. And so it's really cool to see some of the most forward-looking tech companies. I mentioned a few of them, but also some of the mobile network operators like Liquid, who are also part of this. And when we're thinking about NFTs and how you make a community, like, wouldn't it be cool, Ben, to think about getting some of the schools that are connected to actually have their own, to own NFTs that come out of this, to show that they're coming online, and to have operators like yours participate in that kind of, I guess I'd call it a liquid economy without the pun, but to kind of be part of that too. So anyway, I saw Ben there, so shout out to you and all the work you're doing.
Yeah, and Chris has, just so you know, there is an architecture for when these schools are lit up. Chris and team have been working on a methodology to deploy digital wallets to all involved at the ground level at all those schools. So it's not just the tracks, it's all of the kind of custody and transaction methodology for digital assets. And actually, it's the next.
And Bill, it's funny you mentioned that, because one of the things that we're so excited about this is that if you imagine how you pay for a school costs whatever, some amount of money to connect it, some amount of money to keep it online, right? So some CapEx, some OpEx. How do you figure out where that recurring revenue comes from, or recurring cost comes from to keep it online? One of the ways to do that is to look at things that, if you're in the DeFi space, if you've been working with kind of crypto for the last few years, you might think is pretty obvious, which is like, could you use something like staking rewards to pay for school connectivity? And in fact, there are a few governments that are super progressive, mostly in West Africa at this point, that are working with us on setting up the staking pools that they would need in order to actually keep paying for school connectivity, even if there isn't other funding. So immediately, that's a space where crypto becomes very powerful. That it would be really hard to do with fiat. I mean, you could do it with I guess, interest rates from like bank accounts, but that doesn't pay that well. And it's not liquid in the sense that you can't drive it immediately to projects. But if you think about it, like, you connect a school, the dot turns green, you get paid. The dot turns red, you stop being paid. What does that sound like to everybody? It sounds like a smart contract to me. And it sounds like something you could instantiate in Solidity or whatever, on whatever protocol you're using, and actually implement pretty easily. So just, heads up, over the next 6 months, you may see a few of these proofs of concept coming out where we're actually using crypto for the full value chain of connecting schools as well. And the NFT stuff that we're seeing kind of comes into that. And it's really exciting to see these things coming together.
Very cool. Very cool. Back over to Danny. Tell us a little bit more. So how does, I know we can't get into too many specifics. We're still working out some of the details, but what even in the near term is OnChainMonkey doing with this auction with Giga? Can you talk a little bit about what was the idea there and what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing we're going to introduce shortly is we're going to create a new collection called Meta Good Moments. And so these are NFTs that record something significant in kind of a moment of doing good, of, like, for example, Vitalik's a huge donation, right? That could be a meta good moment. But we're starting with, and so many people in the world do good, and we want to recognize many people. So we're starting with our community of on-chain monkeys, and so we want to recognize within our community people doing good with this, and this is also in the kind of the degen DeFi style of things, right? It's a smart contract where at most one one moment, MetaGood moment, can be minted a day, and it'll be far less because we first have to decide if a moment is worthy of a MetaGood moment. But we are starting with basically this auction in Giga. So first, I want to say that Paulin, who agreed to donate a monkey to this cause, he's going to get the first MetaGood moment, and no one asked him to donate one. Actually, he pinged me voluntarily one day and said, I really want to donate one of my monkeys for a good cause. And I said, oh, hold on, we have tons of these, and we'll work with you and figure out a good one. And so this is how this donation happened. So he's getting that first one. And then
he's on right now, Danny. I don't know if we can get him if he wants to speak or not. But
if you want, raise your hand. You can say a few words.
I see him on here.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't want, he can
this
be a
auction
shy
is going
monkey.
to go till Wednesday, and all the funds are going to Giga. And then the second moment, MetaGood moment, is going to the buyer of this, basically in this auction. So that's kind of the start of MetaGood. And I'll explain more about the MetaGood moments too, because there's actually some other interesting things that we're developing. This idea of like your place in history, and how people things on blockchain live forever. People have children and inheritance. Because your DNA continues through your family line and it lives forever. So or like you write things down in stone because it's like your stamp. So like this idea of like both inheritance and stamping things. So like these MetaGood moments will have the stamp effect, where actually all of you monkey holders, you have a unique monkey. All the metadata is on chain. The traits that define your monkey are basically the DNA of your monkey. And so when Paulin gets his MetaGood moment, his basically the monkey that he wants, that is his, that he wants to stamp onto this MetaGood moment, that DNA will actually create the generative art that people will see in that MetaGood moment. So that's kind of one exploration. And we'll talk more on Monday about
I love that. So
OnChainMonkey
in case anyone's wondering, where can they go bid on this? You can go to OpenSea, and it's OnChainMonkey number 6410. It looks like it's at 56 views, and it's at 1 ETH right now. Again, this is going till Wednesday, and obviously we'd love to actually contribute, a significant amount to Giga. And as Danny mentioned, whoever is kind of the top bidder for this, and these proceeds are being donated 100% to Giga, a nonprofit, will get this first MetaGood moment. So yeah, check it out. OnChainMonkey number 6410. We will, I think we tweeted about it. We'll also add that in the Discord in case people are trying to find the monkey. It's a cute one, little naked one, no hat, just hanging out, not shaven, blue eyes. So yeah, love support there on that. Cool. And maybe, Bill, do you want to talk a little more about, I know we got into some of this last Saturday, but this is obviously one little baby step towards supporting many charitable causes. How do you see, OnChainMonkey and the larger MetaGood company, supporting more initiatives like Giga Connect?
Yeah, let me talk about two things. One is kind of the multiplication and amplification of good karma, and then also communities of interest. Because what Danny is describing with kind of MetaGood moments is, I've always been a believer that if you do a little good deed every day, that the person you touch with that good deed is more likely to go off and do another good deed. And so if you think about that, it's a serial thing of amplification where, if you kind of give more good karma than you take every day, and if everybody in your chain of people did that, the big giant positive karma ball would just grow every day. So think about always living in karma deficit where you give more than you take, and the world's going to be a better place. Now, if you think about how that applies to communities of interest, like this one here, or any community of interest around any cause, what we wanted to see happen with this platform is to really enable any community to be kind of its own flash mob of good things, to create a way where any group could activate its community, like, molecules all just gathering to support good things, and to do kind of like, the digital fabric, enabling flash mobs to do good whenever they need to. And if we are successful in that, we will have done a good thing. So that's what I'd love to see happen with this community on this call and every other community that evolves from the platform that we are building.
Awesome. And Chris, what are kind of your thoughts on this? I mean, you kind of touched on, NFTs as a way for nonprofits to fundraise. Maybe you can share a little bit about what your team has been thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as we get to so one reason that it's kind of easy for us to talk about this is we've already got the infrastructure inside of UNICEF to do a lot of work with crypto natively. So we can accept, hold, and dispense ETH, for example. And that's pretty complicated stuff, especially for nonprofits. So it's pretty unusual. But I think what you're going to see over the next few years is that more and more groups in the UN and elsewhere start to be able to do similar types of things. And then the question is like, well, what do you link that dynamic programmable money to? Like in a way that makes it be possible to see what people are doing with the donation that you give them, because that's really important. And then you have to have projects that touch the digital space somewhere. So like it's hard if you want to give Bitcoin and see that pencils are being purchased with it. That's really tough because that goes to the analog space, hard to see what's happening. But when you talk about these projects that are doing good in the digital space, you suddenly have accountability the whole way through. And that's pretty exciting for somebody who wants to give a little bit of money or time to a charity or to something that's important. And it's exciting for somebody who wants to invest in things because you can see what's happening with the money. So I think that, what we see with Giga and the exciting thing that we have about, working with NFTs in general is that it gives a way for people who are excited about the project to feel connected to it, but also to be digitally actually really connected to it so they can see what's happening with other people's tokens. We could see what's happening with schools as they come online. And you could actually be able to, in the kind of immutable, permanent blockchain space, know that the work that you've done, the work that you put in is counted somewhere. And that means a lot. I think that if you want to do good, and that's why the idea of these meta good moments is really cool. If you want to do good, it should be stamped somewhere. You should be able to recognize, aggregate, collect that, and as Bill said, kind of connect it to others. So what I think you'll see by the end of the year is that if we do things right, we have a pretty cool Giga NFT coming that should connect a bunch of the things we talked about on this call to some really great art and a really good purpose behind all of it as well.
I'm just.
And I'd say that's terrifying to say because we haven't done any of that yet. But whatever, it's crypto time. So the end of the year is like 15.
Yeah, we're all working
decades
on it
away,
yet.
right? So.
Yeah. So obviously this is an early effort. All this stuff has been ramping really fast. The team is a very capable team, but small relative to the demand on the team right now because there's just so many organizations and entities pulling on this team to empower their communities, and the team only has so much time, but they are devoting some time to work with Chris and his team to try to do something really, really fun. And if we can get this kind of, this thing that we can't talk too much about, but get the, collection done and launched in a reasonable time frame at a really cool function, I think it's going to light up some really interesting stuff. So look forward to that.
Definitely, thanks. And I don't know if Paulian wants to come on. I mean, I definitely see him there. Does he want to talk a little bit about his motivation for donating his NFT for this auction? Or no worries if not, but you can learn.
I think his microphone, he doesn't have a microphone, but yeah, we can chat with him,
I see him
in
listening.
the future.
All right. Okay. So yeah, just as a reminder again, we are doing an auction that was actually donated by one of our OnChainMonkeys, Paulian. He donated his monkey, and all of the proceeds will be going to the Giga Connect project, which is connecting schools globally. And it's an awesome project. That's why we have Chris Fabian on, who's been running it, and has been kind of talking about the work that they've been doing. Bill Tai, who is chairman of Infinita, soon to be rebranded as MetaGood, has been, supporting the project for several years. If you Google Bill, we'll actually throw it up in the Discord, but if you Google Giga Connect, Elon Musk, and Bill Tai, there's a UN brief article that kind of talks about Elon Musk Foundation is backing UNICEF project, as is Ericsson, ITU, lots of great supporters. Dubai Cares is involved as well. So there's a lot of interesting connections globally trying to make this happen so that people basically close the digital divide between the haves and have-nots. And as Danny, for anyone who's joining a little late, Danny mentioned that we are auctioning this monkey off. It is number 6410 if you go into OpenSea. It's now at a cool 1 ETH. So someone came in and bid 1 ETH, but we'd love to get that up. The auction ends on Wednesday, so we have a few more days for anyone who wants to come in, and all of those proceeds will be going to UNICEF. And then Danny, do you want to talk a little bit more?
Yeah.
For people that joined late about the meta good moments,
absolutely.
maybe. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. Well, so I want to follow up on what Bill and Chris were saying. I mean, like we're building something really new here. This is basically NFTs powering good for powering new economies. This is all brand new. It's all very experimental. And that's why when we created this project, we chose like this playful monkey, and we've been talking about monkey business, right? Because really, it's kind of crazy, and we don't know. We have some. I think we have some good ideas that we want to try out, but we don't know how it really play out in the future, right? And so we want to try many things, and we'll talk more about that on Monday. But just want to mention that.
And I think that, Amanda, it's so cool to see. So for us, we're building this like very particular technology project to do connectivity. It's really fun to work with a team like yours and Danny's that is also building something, but just building at a totally different speed. And so it kind of encourages us to think about some of the applications of technology, but also where the NFT space is going, and where the NFT space is going, particularly for like low infrastructure environments anyway. So, does something that requires a lot of bandwidth, does something that requires a lot of processing power for minting, is that the same NFT that we want everywhere in the world, or are there different things that are going to emerge based on the constraints that we see around? And so I think we can also be one of the things we're excited about at Giga is that we can see into the future a little bit. We can see what's coming, and the NFT space doesn't look like a singular block. And I think everybody who's kind of close to it knows that there are many different kind of factions and segments of it. But I think that you also see a geographic diversity that's starting, which is pretty cool as well.
Definitely,
right.
and
also,
go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, but geographic diversity, but also where everyone from different geographies can also come together. Right? I mean, like communities are being built where it's all over the world. I mean, the Discord servers run 24/7 with different people from different parts of the world in different time zones. And also, there are multiple chains to choose from. Each one is also innovating on their aspects. So there's so much happening.
Great. And for anyone who joined late or doesn't know what OnChainMonkey is, obviously we're a 10,000 profile pic collection with all images, metadata, and rarity traits on-chain in a single Ethereum transaction. So it's quite historic. This was launched a cool 13 days ago. It feels like much longer. We've, since had a ground. We're so appreciative for all of the OnChainMonkeys who've come in to support us in Discord. I want to give a shout out to the mods who have, round the clock been monitoring the channels to make sure everything is up and clear and to the right. So, they've spent a lot of time and effort working on making sure that everything's good in our Discord, and folks working on Twitter. So, I mean, this is just the beginning. OnChainMonkey is just the beginning of a much larger project, and I'd say even movement to figure out how do we harness the energy of all of these people. We all have an aligned interest in these monkeys, and how do we turn that into something that can actually benefit society? So even this one little OnChainMonkey that we're starting with an auction is just the beginning, we see, of a much larger movement. And with that, I know we've got about 6 more minutes. I don't know, Bill, Danny, Chris, do you guys have any closing comments you want to add?
I'm just really pleased to see the community growing, because I think it's a little can get done by one person, a lot done the group with. I forgot who said it. There's a guy named Dante Disparte who's part of our Necker Blockchain Summit who said something like, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go with a community. And I'm stretching a little bit because I think he doesn't use the word community per se, but I think we have an amazing seed of a community here that's grown so fast in just like a week and a half, and there's no telling where this can amplify to. And the people on this call and in our community, you're kind of like the Genesis block of the platform to amplify and spread good karma. So thank you all for being here.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Bill. I mean, I think if you look at like there are a bunch of different big types of NFTs, but like the NFTs for games and game stuff, the NFTs for art, like art with a capital A, and the NFTs for community, all the PFPs and that whole side of it, they all sort of come together around a project like this. It's really exciting that you can imagine that you can start to be playful with things that are also art that also create that community, and it's so I think just it's fun to be in that, but it's also really important that we define it correctly for everybody who's coming after, because as you all know, crypto Twitter can be a kind of dark place sometimes, and the positivity and the ability to actually try to do things that are good for the world is pretty valuable in and of itself.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to thank everyone. Bill, Chris, Amanda, especially for this great panel, and all of you monkeys and possibly future monkeys for joining and listening in. It's an honor to be here with all of you.
And keep the ideas coming in Discord. Like I said, we've got a Google Doc. I think so many people have been super generous with their brain juice, really coming up with awesome ideas of where this community can go. Feel free to keep asking questions. Like I said, as Danny mentioned, we will have kind of a more official AMA just around OnChainMonkey on Monday, but we wanted to kind of devote this Twitter Spaces to Chris Fabian and the Giga Connect project, just because we're so excited that this first monkey will be helping to support his project. Go on to OpenSea, OnChainMonkey number 6410. Love to get this bid up so we kind of have a nice number that we're sending over to Giga Connect. We definitely appreciate everyone who's here today, and everyone who's joined. I see a lot of monkeys here in the community, a lot of profile pics, which is awesome. And we're just really honored to work with all of you.
Wonderful. And I think that's a wrap. And I'll be in Discord, so we can bring the party there, either in the savannah or the jungle. You guys decide.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you again, Chris. We, again, really appreciate your time. It's always enlightening to hear what you're working on at the Giga project. Bill, I learn almost something every time I listen to you, which is I'm glad I get plenty of time to be on these type of things with you. And thank you for joining. And, of course, our CEO, Danny, awesome to have you announce MetaGood Moments and the NFTs that will be going to the folks that the person that actually wins the NFT. So thank you, Danny. And we'll all be on Discord. So come join us.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.